welcome back to my channel. My name is Addison with Murphy Crochets. It is so nice to be back doing a video with you guys. Today I wanted to do a little bit of a yarn comparison because Premier got a brand new yarn. This is Parfait Plush, and I wanted to show you guys how it compares to some of your favorites. So the yarns in our comparison today are Parfait Chunky, Premier Chenille Basics, and Premier Plush. These are all of the Premier yarns, along with the Bernat Blanket Mystical, Sweet Snuggles Light, and Big Twist Baby Bear. So for the purposes of this video, for Baby Bear and Parfait Chunky, I'll be using a 4mm hook. For Sweet Snuggles Light and Parfait Plush, I'll be using a 5mm hook. For Chenille Basics and Bernat Blanket, I will be using a 6mm hook. This is just my personal preference and what I use on these yarns. However, I may have to adjust this one depending on how it is working up, but from the looks of it, it looks to be pretty similar to Sweet Snuggles Light. These are the hooks I'll be using. This is 4, 5, and 6. These two are from Deja Crochets. I will link those in the description box, and if you use this code on your order from Deja Crochet's Etsy shop, you will receive 10% off of your order. And this middle one is from Hooks and Glitter that I was part of her Patreon to be able to get at one point, and I will link her down below as well. On to testing these yarns out. I am going to start with the two using the 4mm hook, so Parfait Chunky and Big Twist Baby Bear. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be making just a magic circle that goes up to about 24, and then I will fasten those off. That way I can show you guys side-by-side comparisons of these yarns and the ones that are similar to them, and also show you the differences in the yarns. Talking about our smaller two yarns first, again, this one is Big Twist Baby Bear that was sold by Joanne. However, that is no longer being sold. The closest thing that you can get to this right now is Cozy Cub from Michaels. I've been told it is not the exact same, but it is probably the absolute closest that you can come to Baby Bear. And the yellow is Premier Parfait Chunky, which is the yarn that I use the most. I use it for just about everything that I make. It's one of my favorites. It has a huge color selection that just keeps getting bigger and bigger, which is absolutely amazing. And I wanted to show you these two side by side. So here you can see that Parfait Chunky has a little bit of a sheen to it, and Baby Bear is a little bit more matte. Parfait Chunky is just a tad bit thicker. However, the Baby Bear is a bit denser, whereas this one is a little bit more fluffy, fuzzy, loose almost. This one's a little bit more dense, not as fuzzy, but still very soft. It is kind of, I would say, a combination of chenille and blanket yarn, and Parfait Chunky is just solely chenille. So if we snap this off, this one, pretty much no shedding. There you'll get the tiny little bits. So that is one thing I absolutely love about this yarn. But Parfait Chunky, I don't know if you saw that big clump full, but this one, you can just keep pulling it off and pulling it off. It will shed. If you snap it the way I did, it'll shed more than if you cut it with scissors. But honestly, that I would say is probably the biggest downfall about Parfait Chunky. But again, it does not bother me any personally. Side by side, these two worked up are about the same size. If I put one behind the other, we've got Parfait Chunky in the back. It is maybe the tiniest bit larger. It's about the same size. It's, like I said, this one might be just a tad bit bigger. However, these two yarns are absolutely interchangeable. You can work with them together and you will not see a size difference in anything. I use these two together all the time. Again, Parfait Chunky Baby Bear. On to our second set of yarns. These are the ones I used the 5mm hook with. Just a reminder, the blue is Sweet Snuggles Light and the red is Premier Parfait Plush. Sweet Snuggles Light is sold by Michaels. It is the exact same as their Chenille Home Slim yarn. The Chenille Home Slim has the more neutral earthy tone color palettes, while Sweet Snuggles Light has the brighter and the pastel colors. First impression of Parfait Plush, I love it. I absolutely love it. It is very, very, very similar to Sweet Snuggles Light. And I will say, Sweet Snuggles Light has always been one of my favorites, but they never had a big enough color palette for me. And Parfait Plush already has quite a few colors in that collection, which I really appreciate, and they did great making sure that they released some neutral colors with this. So they had the rust color, the chocolate, and the shell color, along with toffee. I want to say maybe the one or two more, but they were all very nice, earthy, neutral colors that get used all the time. So here is the size comparison. As you can see, the Parfait Plush is maybe the slightest bit bigger, but other than that, I mean, they look almost identical. They've both got that glossy sheen to them. Both of them are going to shed the way that Parfait Chunky does because they're chenille yarns. The side-by-side comparison of these, the Parfait Plush is just the slightest bit bigger, but I can almost guarantee that these would work up very, very well together. I think for Parfait Plush, honestly, I could probably size up to a 5.5 just because it feels a bit more dense than the Sweet Snuggles Light, which honestly, I'd say a good thing. I love it when I can use a bigger yarn with a bigger hook and just have something that's bigger versus working with a small yarn and a smaller hook, and especially like on a larger project, because when you sell that, like, people see the size of it first before they see the details and even think about the work that goes into it. They just see the size of it first. So having something that's a little bit bigger for like your items that take a little bit longer is always my favorite. That's why for my attention drawing items at markets, I always use Sweet Snuggles or Parfait XL because it's jumbo yarn, it's big. Anyways, off that tangent, these yarns are great and I cannot wait to work more with this Parfait Plush yarn. And now that we have seen both Parfait Plush and Parfait Chunky, I wanted to do a side-by-side comparison of those. Here you can see that Parfait Plush is quite a bit bigger than Parfait Chunky. But other than that, they're both the glossy, they're both the chenille that sheds, and honestly, my favorite yarn. And then side by side of these, again, 4mm hook, 5mm hook. There is quite a noticeable size difference. So making like a larger plushie, definitely Parfait Plush. But for a lot of my market makes, I always use Parfait Chunky because it's a smaller, fast pattern, and honestly, the size difference does not vary too much. On to Bernat Blanket and Premier Chenille Basics. Here is a side-by-side comparison of these. They are like the other two sets, about the same size. The Bernat Blanket is a tiny bit bigger maybe, but like I honestly would say the Bernat Blanket is a tad bit more like dense, which honestly I could absolutely size down to a 5.5 for the Premier Chenille Basics. However, just for the sake of keeping these the same, I will be using a 6. I have not made any plushies in the Premier Chenille Basics using a 5.5. I always use a 6. I don't have any holes. However, I do know I could size down and still be just fine. Another thing that I wanted to say about the Bernat blanket and the Premier Chenille Basics yarn is that these do not shed. You might get like the tiniest little flyaways, but these will not shed. And then same here, like nothing. That is one big plus about working with blanket yarn. Here is the side-by-side comparison of these. Again, Premier Chenille Basics and Bernat blanket. They are very similar in size. The Bernat blanket is the teeniest bit bigger. I do use these yarns interchangeably. I use them when I'm making different pieces. I will use these together all the time. And just for fun, let's compare Premier Plush with Premier Chenille Basics. Here we've got these two, and honestly, very, very similar in size. If I made these in 5.5, both of them, because I could definitely size up for this one, and I could definitely size down for this one. I think they would be just about the same size, very different. Again, blanket yarn versus chenille. They're both very soft, but they have a completely different texture. This one looks a little bit more rough, but it's not. It feels still very soft and like plushy. This one I think has a much cleaner look to it, and it feels buttery, like so nice. And I think if you guys were to make a plushie that you wanted like a texture contrast, Chenille Basics and Parfait Plush would be an amazing combination to do, to have like, if you were to do a turtle, like to have this be the body and have like a smooth glossy like skin with a more rough shell, or vice versa, more rough skin, rough scaly skin to a shinier shell using the plush yarn. I think these two would pair together very, very nicely. And same being said for Bernat blanket and like Sweet Snuggles light, but this one is a little bit more of a noticeable size difference. But the two from Premier have a very, very similar size and would work up about the same, especially using the same size hook, which I absolutely could have for these. So of the 6 that we did, the smallest was Big Twist Baby Bear. The second smallest was Parfait Chunky. The third smallest was Loops and Threads Sweet Snuggles Light. The third largest was Premier Parfait Plush. The second largest was Premier Chenille Basics. And the largest was Bernat blanket yarn. All in all, I absolutely love all of these yarns. I've used all of them so many different times, other than the Parfait Plush since it's new, but do be expecting to see plenty of pieces from me in that yarn because chef's kiss. I'm gonna be honest, I think Parfait Plush has absolutely won me over. It might be a new favorite for me, which is saying a lot because Parfait Chunky has my heart. And the more colors that Parfait Plush gets, I think the more it's gonna win me over. If you guys are interested in trying any of the yarns that I showed in this video, be sure to check the link in my description. I'm gonna have a link to Premier's website, which is an affiliate link. It costs nothing extra to you, but it does help to support me as a creator. Unfortunately, the baby bear you can no longer get, but like I said, if you shop at Michael's, the Cozy Cub yarn is going to be your closest yarn to this. Sweet Snuggles Light has not been in stock very much at Michael's. However, I have been seeing people say that they are seeing it in stock more. So again, Michael's, which will be linked in the description as well. Bernat blanket you can get at Walmart, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Yarnspirations, online, Amazon, all those different things. But I absolutely love all of these yarns. They all have their purpose here in my craft room, and I will absolutely be using these time and time again. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click the bell notifications if you want to be notified whenever I post to see more videos like this and just weekly day-to-day vlogs. If you have any questions about the yarn that I used that I didn't answer in this video, make sure to leave them down below and I will get back to you guys. That concludes today's video, so have a great day.